Okay, so obviously I'm on the camera with no makeup and my hair's not did. And I'm like, why do I always have to get super dressed up to do a YouTube video? Especially when I'm doing ones that I feel like maybe all 5 of you are gonna watch. So I've been getting tweets and comments on videos that have nothing to do with the topic about me reviewing the reboot of The Roots. And to be honest, and yes, I know this sentiment is childish as fuck. You know, I enjoyed watching Underground. I enjoyed reviewing it. However, y'all didn't really watch the reviews, and that messes up my analytics for the month. And I took a really big hit with that. That's why it's really important that you thumbs up the video, that you comment, that you do engage. On top of it, this is super childish. Underground sent out gift boxes to people that supported them in their first season. Not me. So it's a 4-part series. I definitely think the Roots redo was very good. I think it's definitely worth watching. This all we do is slave narratives. Okay, I've done talked about that already. You can go watch my first review for Underground. I discussed it there. It's tired, it's tried, and it's not true. My favorite part was part 2. I think that was the one where I was the most emotionally evoked. Part 1 and 2 were really good. Part 3 got a little campy, and part 4, like Chicken George and then T.I. with the veneers, interesting. I like the way they kind of showed the connection, obviously, to West Africa. They show kind of how hard and how much of a struggle and how much she had to fight to retain any aspect of his culture, which I think definitely speaks to this conversation, one, about our African Americans appropriating West African culture, which I wish we just stopped talking about it, because like 9 times out of 10 you're actually putting out your own African cousins appropriating your culture, not African Americans, but somehow always comes back to us. Anywho, so for another day. 2, it also hits on this idea that African Americans either don't have a culture, or that our culture is fake, or that we somehow, the onus is on us for the lack of culture that we have. I don't, one, think African Americans have a lack of culture. Travel outside of America, see how influential we are. Or this idea, or 2, this idea that African culture is any more pure or authentic than African American culture, especially when you consider how hard kind of Kunta Kinte had to fight. For me, I got kind of wrapped up in like with Kizzy's storyline and feeling like, oh my gosh, it was a bright spot. Like I cared about Kizzy. Like this is happy. She can read. She's an educated, magical black girl, and she got the silky. How her hair come out so silky? Okay, never mind. That's just, you know, that moment where you finally found that piece of joy, and it immediately gets ripped right out of the at every turn, at every piece of hope that they held on to, the white man came down and took it away from them. Like you keep thinking Kunta's gonna run away, and he almost gets there, and then he gets caught again, and then they chop his toes off. I appreciate that this version of The Roots is a lot more, it's Hollywood, so you know there's still the love story elements. They did kind of, the slaves, even in their griminess, are still beautiful. They still kind of feed into the mainstream appeal. It still kind of beautifies the period. They make up for the necessity in having to be visually pleasing, and just being very honest about, there was nothing joyous or enjoyable about the slave narrative. And I've been to plantations in the United States, and you do constantly hear, well at least they had these log cabins and nobody really had a lot back then, and they, you know, the whole mammy trope. It didn't matter what piece of joy you got, you didn't own that joy, and at any moment it could be taken from you. And I think part 2 really kind of honed in that message, even with, especially with Kizzy's storyline with the slave owner's niece or daughter or whatever, little white girl. I just want to call her Becky. I don't remember the child's name, but that child, like, I almost believed that they were genuinely friends. Like they did a damn good job with that whole sequence. And then when the girl, you know, even claiming that she loved Kizzy, be like, how could you do this to me, and allowing Kizzy to be sold. Like she didn't put up a fight for her friend in the least. Like this is an issue we still have today. The passing on of familial wealth. And I guess for a slave who literally owned nothing, that familial wealth would come in knowledge and education. So in that, Kizzy learned how to read, but her children, or Chicken George, did not learn how to read, because Kizzy didn't teach her son how to read when he was younger, because she wanted to protect him and keep him from, you know, losing his limbs essentially. Again, we look at African Americans today and we have all these ideas about who they should be and the respectability policies we try to push on each other, and this coming and saying that African Americans are lazy. And there really is a system that has been in place for generations that has led to the state of where we are at today. I also thought it was really great that they showed, and I don't know if people really caught on to this, Kizzy, the guy she was sold to, that slave master, and him being Irish. Because so often, especially with the rise of Trump and yada yada yada, people constantly talking about, well, my people were slaves too. I mean, I think they show the duality of like the slave master being Irish and not fitting into the social circle of the other slave masters, but he was just as oppressive, still disrespectful, did not see blacks as humans. Like, no matter how much other whites disrespected the slave master, he was still seen as a human being that deserved certain basic dignities, which he did not grant to his slaves because they were his slaves. He felt he owned them, and he essentially lied to Chicken George about freeing his family. Kind of mash up with the Civil War reenactment. T.I.'s too 2016 for the roots. Like, honestly, nothing about T.I. said 1865. T.I., I enjoyed the bulk of the acting choices. To see Forrest Whitaker play Fiddler, and even the whole breakdown of his death, it's like, it was just, you just realize kind of how simple it was to just snuff someone out because they were not seen as human beings. So proud and so privileged that my ancestors went through this and withstood this for me to be able to even sit here and have this conversation with you, because this is not light. And I think the roots really kind of showed like that middle passage, and this, even when you got here, there was just no break. For 200-300 years, I come from a people who just were beaten down constantly in the most sadistic ways. Like, there was nothing light and airy and happy about this experience. Now, are you happy with this review? Do you like my Frederick Douglass hair? Is it giving you life? Who said this wasn't beautiful, right? Who said I couldn't walk out the house like this? If I had a snatched waistline and just a few baby hairs, you'd be saying this was cute. You know you would. If you like this content, you definitely should have already thumbs up and become a Patreon support. All right, for me doing this for the peoples. Deuces.